the scent of potpourri, films we commit to memory. Crossing the felt ropes, watching from home on my TV, looking at all my eyes can see. They tell me I view obsessively.
And joining me for this week's feature review of Project Hail Mary is my friend and IFJ colleague Joe Shearer, whose work can be found at MidwestFilmJournal.com, and he can be followed on Letterboxd at the username of Joe R. Shearer. Joe, welcome back to the show. How's it going?
It is going just great. Yeah. We got a movie to talk about. Like, what else do we need?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And this was one of my most, I don't even know if I would say most anticipated movies. It's just a movie that I had very much on my radar, and I'm very excited to talk about. But before we get to all of that, like I said, you can find Joe's work at MidwestFilmJournal.com and a various number of other places as well. Recently over at Midwest Film Journal, currently you guys over there are doing a series in celebration of Kurt Russell's 75th birthday, I think. 75th?
Yeah.
Is that right? Jesus.
I believe it's 75. That's weird.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Called Kurt Response, which I love the names of the essay series over there.
Yeah, I love that they come up with these little names. This is Nick
So
and Evan. I mean, so it's it's all them, and it's always great. Yeah, 75th, he's 75 years old. Yeah.
So clever. But your contribution was for a little known movie called Tango and Cash. I will go ahead and say it. I've never seen Tango and Cash. So what was it like revisiting
Tango and
it?
Cash was a Generation 1 FYFF feature.
Nice.
So if you have never seen it, you should. It stars Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone as two Los Angeles cops who are, they're big time hotshot cops, and Kurt Russell is the East Side cop that wears $9 t-shirts, and Stallone is the Beverly Hills cop that wears $1,500 suits. I don't know how he wears $1,500 suits on a cop salary, even in Beverly Hills, but it's number one, it's hilarious to see Stallone act like a completely normal human being, and not someone with a severe disability of some sort.
Sure.
And
so he's like the straight man in it.
He is the straight man, which is but they're also both not the straight man too.
Okay, gotcha.
They're both and that's the other thing, is Stallone throws out all of these like wisecracks and sarcastic responses, and they're so forced and just so like awkward. Every single one of them is awkward, and it's a joy to watch, just in a complete way. And of course we're talking about Kurt Russell in this, in this particular piece, but he is also in rare form. And by rare form, I mean, kind of like what he does in every other movie, at least his big mainstream kind of movies. And he's kind of the the loudmouth, sarcastic guy who just doesn't care about anything. And so that's where they go. It's got great performances. Jack Palance is the villain, and he is just he did that in Batman. Of course, they both came out in the same year. And it is amazing. I didn't mention that in my review because it's not about Jack Palance, but Jack Palance is absolutely amazing. Like, if Batman is the only thing you ever saw him in, come and see him in this. He's exactly the same.
Okay.
but still, it's amazing.
Nice.
It's just amazing. And he's got James Hong and an actor named Mark Alimo, who I know best from Star Trek Deep Space Nine as Gul Dukat.
Okay.
So if you're a Star Trek fan and like Gul Dukat, it's fun to see him without his makeup on. But that voice is just a signature for him, and it is unmistakable, just when you hear him talk. But and then there's kind of
Nice.
a cadre of that guys. Brian James is in it. Robert Zadar, who we have seen in a movie together recently. I just don't
Mm.
remember which one it was,
Huh.
but maybe Stone Cold or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, one we watched over there
Mhm,
with the guys,
mhm.
and so, yeah, so it's a bunch of people. Clint Howard is in it also. He has a small role as a prisoner. It is just fantastic to watch, if you like movies of that kind, and of course, obviously we
Nice.
do. So,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
check that out. And I am doing another
Nice.
one on a movie where Kurt Russell's playing a much different character, and I kind of that's kind of the thrust of that. I'll kind of save it as a surprise maybe,
Okay.
um, but it'll come out. I think it comes out on the 15th if I remember right. So
Okay.
if you're
So
listening to this
it'll
and that
yeah.
date hasn't come yet, then by all means, check it out. And even if it hasn't come, has come out or come and gone, then go check it out anyway because it's going to be there a while.
Oh, yeah, I'll put a link in the show notes for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Um, and really quickly, you've also done, reviews of Dolly and Dreams. What can you
Yeah.
say about those 2?
Yeah. So Dolly, I looked at as a a missed opportunity
Mm,
because if you have seen the trailer for that, the character Dolly is absolutely terrifying, and there's a pretty wonderful twist about halfway through the movie, that sort of changes the complexion of the film,
hmm.
but also not really, but also kind of. Um,
I
but
actually don't know anything about Dolly, the
yeah,
movie.
yeah, and I would say that's kind of the way to do it. It's
Okay.
basically a slasher film,
Mhm.
but there's really only 3 or 4 characters really at all, in the film.
Okay.
One of them is Sean William Scott,
Hmm.
who plays against type, in this film. He's very straight, nice, clean-cut gentleman,
Oh,
and he,
interesting.
yeah, and he's just very
Huh.
sincere, and, it's that's a little different for him. But then, yeah, and sorry, I'm not prepared, to talk about all of the people in this.
Oh, you're
Um
fine.
but, Fabienne Therese is the main character. She's a woman named
Hmm.
Macy. She's, Sean William Scott's character, Chase. That's Chase, played by Sean William Scott. It's like, has he ever been named Chase in a movie before? Like,
Right.
but he's, they're a young couple in love, or, a couple pushing 30s, 40s, probably more like 40s for Sean William Scott. But, they're a couple in love, and they're, uh, they're going hiking. Chase is planning on proposing to her, to Macy, his beloved girlfriend. They become separated, and then, Macy comes face to face with Dolly, and then things go off the rail. There's a little bit off the rails. There's a little bit of Texas Chainsaw Massacre in it.
Okay.
There's a little bit of, any slasher movie in it. It's fun for a while, but and has a couple of pretty inventive, I'll say inventive kills, or
Hmm.
let's say gore scenes, maybe more accurately. Um,
Sure.
and but it kind of falls victim to that slasher film axiom where
Mm.
the main characters are just colossally stupid. And and the thing that's frustrating about this is that Macy is essentially over and over gets Dolly, in a compromising position where, Macy could land a blow really easily,
Mm.
or escape very easily, and then for some reason chooses not to, or chooses to
Oh.
do something really dumb instead. And it's like this movie feels very smart by comparison
Mhm.
to most slasher movies, and except for those moments when Macy
Dang.
ends up turning around, or, I've got to grab this thing, or I've got to do this thing, and then of course the film continues.
Yeah.
Um, it's very worth seeing, I would say.
Okay.
Go check it out if you like horror movies, especially. Like I said, there's a couple of really good gore scenes that are
Nice.
just not something you've seen. Actually, well, I take that back. I actually, note in my review that these particular events. There's a very similar one in another movie that just recently came out, another horror film. I won't. I
Okay.
talk about it in the review, but I won't say it here because
Okay.
you need something to go read. So
Sure.
go read it, and then you can check it out.
Nice. Nice. Well, that is over at MidwestFilmJournal.com. And you also
Yeah.
reviewed Dreams,
Dreams.
the new
Yeah.
Jessica Chastain movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good film. It was it's a I would call it a drama.
Mm.
Jessica Chastain, but it's kind of there's a lot of things going on. There's politics and socioeconomic status and things like that. Jessica Chastain's a wealthy young professional. She's in the family business. Her which is philanthropy by the way things seem.
Okay.
Her father is extraordinarily rich, and she's got a brother, and the three of them together kind of run this company, if that's what you want to call it, a nonprofit, probably technically, where they're raising money to help people who are from other countries who don't have proper documentation.
Okay.
And well, at least they're trying to help get amnesty or asylum or whatever for
Hmm.
for undocumented immigrants. And also Jessica Chastain's character on the side is, well, the ones that in particular that they're working with are a dance troupe, and so that's her kind of pet cause. And
Okay.
also her pet cause is the young man who is the kind of one of the more talented dancers. And so while she has this interest in him and they have this relationship, her family wouldn't approve. And there's sort of hints that her friend circle maybe wouldn't approve. I mean, friend circle, her peers, let's say her social peers,
Mm.
wouldn't approve. And so she keeps him at a distance, and kind of treats him as a plaything, and then ignores him when
Okay.
other people are around, and he doesn't take kindly to that. And so there it
Hmm.
turns into like there's a lot of like back and forth cat and mouse kind of relationship games. And um
Gotcha.
so lots of
Hmm.
things going on there. It's very layered, honestly, and is very timely, of the moment. But
Hmm.
um yeah, but it's it's kind of it's a very interesting film, and I enjoyed it quite a bit.
Nice.
So yeah, I would definitely say go check out Dreams if you're into, and this is there is a little bit of eroticism going on in there. This is
Hmm.
a film made for adults. So
Okay.
go make sure, if you have children, they might not be interested in this film for a couple of reasons.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Well, once
Yeah.
again, you can find Joe's work at MidwestFilmJournal.com and at various other places. And follow him on Letterboxd at Joe R. Shearer. And
Mhm.
once again, just to plug it again, follow the IFJ on Letterboxd.
Yeah.
Indie FJA on Letterboxd. We basically post links to as many of the reviews as our members publish on
Yeah.
there. So
Yeah.
so check it out. Keep yourself informed with the going ons of goings on
It's
of the
goings on.
IFJ. Yeah, goings on. So Joe, we are here tonight to talk Project Hail Mary. So let's go
Yes.
ahead and get into our feature review of the evening. Of course,
Mhm.
we're going to do a non-spoiler review and then a spoiler review. When we switch over to spoilers, I'll play a clip from the trailer.
Mhm.
Um, and if you want to navigate around that or what have you, there's always the timestamps in the show notes of the episode, or in the description if you're watching the YouTube version of the episode. So yeah, Project Hail Mary. It's the new film from Phil Lord and Chris Miller, written by Drew Goddard, based on the book by Andy Weir, who is best known for The Martian.
Mhm.
The premise, according to IMDb, is science teacher Ryland Grace wakes up alone on a spaceship light years from Earth. As his memory returns, he uncovers a mission to stop a mysterious substance killing the sun and save Earth. This movie is released in theaters March 20th, 2026, and the cast includes Ryan Gosling, Milena Vaintrub, Sandra Huller, Ken Lung, Liz Kingsman, and James Ortiz. Um, and
Yes.
Joe, we're in a somewhat of a unique position for this review because you have
Mhm,
read the book by Andy Weir and I have not,
mhm.
but we both saw
Yeah,
the movie and we're both going to
yeah.
talk about it. So,
All right.
yeah, so let's do it. Non
Let's go.
spoilers. What did you think of Project Hail
Yeah.
Mary?
Yeah,
And yeah,
yeah, I love this movie. I gave
hmm
this movie 5 stars.
nice,
This is my
nice.
first 5-star film in, I believe, 2 years plus.
Oh
Um,
wow,
so yeah, I
wow.
which I
Okay.
didn't realize, but I actually I told people that, and then I was like, "I don't even know the last time I gave a movie 5 stars." And I looked back and yeah, I believe it's been like 2 years. Oh, Barbie was actually the last one I gave 5
Oh
stars to,
wow,
so,
wow.
that can tell you,
That's
something.
wild.
Yeah,
Are you saying
I'm
that is in terms of just new release movies in the last 2 years or
yeah, just new
in
movies that
general?
I've seen.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So films from the yeah. So yeah, my films that they were released in. Yeah. So
Still,
obviously,
that's wild.
yeah. If I'm sure I've watched Jaws in that time, and that's a 5-star
Sure.
movie. You know, but but yeah, yeah. So yeah, among new releases, yeah, that's the first 5-star I've given in quite a while. But it's
Wow.
weird because I'm not one of those, oh, I don't ever give 5-star kind of
Sure.
goofs. I just and I probably in 1 year, I probably gave out several, but I
Mhm.
just haven't for a couple of years now. So,
Wow.
maybe I would put Sinners in 5-star category
Mhm.
if, if I had it to do again.
Mm.
But anyway, we're talking about Project Hail Mary.
Yeah. I was gonna
Um,
say I was gonna say,
yeah.
yeah, I guess Joker Folie à Deux was a few years ago, Joe. Uh
Yeah, that wasn't the one. Yeah, so, I don't know. So I'll say my personal take, and, this is your show, so you decide, what counts, but,
Mm.
for me, as someone who read the book, so to speak, and I wanna say read the book in quotes, I listened to the audiobook,
Mhm.
which I thought was fantastic,
Nice.
despite the narrator doing voices,
Mm.
for everything for everyone, but, as it went along, I was like, "Man, this guy's really good," and he was doing, like, at a time, multiple different female Russian accents in
Wow.
the same, like, kind of, I mean, I assume there were cuts here and there, but
Mhm.
basically in the same breath, he's switching back and forth between these 2 accents. So anyway, it's a very good audiobook if you don't wanna, flip the pages and you wanna listen while
Mhm.
you're driving or whatever, jogging. I would recommend checking it out. I would obviously recommend actually reading as well, because that's
Mhm.
a wonderful activity. But, as someone who went into that audiobook completely cold, and I knew nothing about it save there was a single man in space in a spaceship. Um, what constitutes a spoiler to me is
Mm.
maybe different, but
Sure.
also would not let us talk about probably more than half the movie, and honestly,
Mhm.
the better half of the
Yeah.
2. Yeah, so we can tread I'll tread until you
Mhm.
lightly until you, spoil something, and then I'll just, like, go on from
Yeah,
there, but,
we can
obviously, we're not giving away
save
the ending. I'm talking about,
right.
40, 30, 35, 40 minutes into the movie.
Yeah, we can save that part for spoilers, even though it's a
Mhm.
significant part, because
Yeah.
shout out to you. I'm very appreciative of you because you had
Mhm.
mentioned when the first trailer came out, I think it was like 8 months ago.
Yeah.
I think you were in the midst of listening to the audiobook and you like put in our little chat, you said, "Hey, FYI, if you haven't read Project Hail Mary, the uh the trailer kind of gives away a pretty big spoiler."
Yeah.
and and I was like, "Oh shit, I haven't read Project Hail Mary. I'm very excited for the movie. I'm going to avoid it."
Mhm.
And somehow in the
Uh,
last 8 or so months, I I avoided the trailer entirely. Like, I didn't see
oh,
it in the
very nice.
theater at all.
Mhm.
So when when the plot kicks into gear and you get when you get like the introduction of another plot element that comes into
Yeah.
play about 30-40 minutes into the movie, I was
Mhm.
like, "Oh, I was not expecting that," and I was so pleasantly surprised. So,
Yeah. It's
hats off
really
to you for the
wonderful.
warning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
But yeah, it is wonderful, and my fiancée, Elisha, wants to see this movie. I actually took her
Mhm.
son to our screening, as you know, we
Yeah.
were sitting right next to you.
Mhm.
But she's very excited to see it, but knows
Nice.
also nothing about it.
That's
So, and
awesome.
I'm like, listen, don't look at anything, don't read anything,
Mhm.
don't, like, I'm not going to tell you anything. Just because I was like, what do you know about it? She goes, I don't know. Ryan Gosling's on a spaceship, and I'm like, okay, good. That's all you need to know. And let's go
Yep.
watch it and let everything else be a surprise because it in the book this is just such a moment, and it's
Mhm.
weird because it's a pretty normal kind of occurrence of a film slash book of this kind, but
Mhm.
somehow it just feels different in this case. And it is just it's just wonderful. It's just such a wonderful
Nice.
introduction to kind of where the story's going, and it
Mhm.
turns into something just completely different than what you might think.
Mhm.
I was thinking maybe this is a Gravity kind of situation.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like, here's Sandra Bullock out in space by herself, and it's like,
Right.
it's like, well, maybe it's something like that. But then it's like, nope, it's something completely different, and
Mhm.
it somehow feels really special,
Mhm.
and and it's just perfect.
Nice.
The I'll say the parallel story is
Mhm.
also very well done. I thought it was a really great way to frame a book, and it is certainly a good way to frame a movie.
Yeah.
Maybe it holds back certain things, certain little plot elements here and there. But it kind of gave, Lord and Miller and Drew Goddard, I guess, as well as the
Mhm.
writer, it gave them opportunities to kind of cheat certain things, or at least, handle things that these concepts that in the book were, you're able to explain what astrophage is. And what's
Mhm.
funny about it is looking at the synopsis, the
Mhm.
synopsis is not accurate.
Oh, yeah.
The sun is not dying. Nothing is killing the
Mhm.
sun.
Right.
What it's actually doing is blocking the rays of the sun, the radiation from the sun from getting to Earth, which is going to kill the Earth. But
Mhm.
at the same time, like if I had to say that in a movie synopsis, like you would fall asleep in the middle of
Oh,
reading
yeah.
it.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
they go with this, and it's like
Mhm.
it's not really killing the sun, but it's going to kill the Earth. Um,
Yeah.
so I found that kind of funny. But anyway, there are a couple of these very science heavy explanations that would be so difficult to explain if the whole movie was Ryan Gosling in the spaceship by himself
Yeah.
for the entire runtime. But and it would be a lot of him talking to himself,
Mhm.
kind of thing. But by shifting it back and forth and introducing the amnesia element of it,
Mhm.
they take a lot of these well worn kind of cliches and make them
Yeah.
feel fresh somehow. That the coma amnesia felt plausible and not like a cheap device. Um, the the way that astrophage was kind of realized in the film was very good,
Mhm.
compared to what it could have been.
Yeah.
And it because if I talk to you about it, it's like, oh, it's this magic substance, and it's like,
Right.
but it's like, but it has like a pretty plausible scientific
Mhm.
at least from someone from our people from our vantage point, where we're just kind of
Sure. Oh,
like
yeah.
not particularly good at science. But
Mhm.
listen, I'm a big Star Trek fan, so
Yeah.
so so I know science. Believe me,
Yeah. As
I
long as
practically
it
have a degree.
Yeah. As long as it fits its own internal logic, I am more
Yeah,
than fine with it. And
yeah,
that's
mhm,
that's one of the good things about like Andy Weir as a writer because I've read The
mhm,
Martian, I saw The Martian movie. I love both of them
yeah,
a lot. And here, like I'm excited to go back and read the book or listen to the
mhm,
book and also check out one of his other books, Artemis, I think. But it's such a testament to his writing style and also
yeah,
the collaboration of like Drew Goddard writing the screenplay and Lord and Miller directing it that
mhm,
the movie it stays very true to that hard science style that Andy Weir is known for,
yeah,
um, while also taking it into directions that are very Lord and Miller, very Drew Goddard, and very, like,
mhm,
very, uh, entertainment level stuff. It's a
Yeah.
really good style. And the whole time I was watching it, I was thinking, like I can't imagine there being better suited directors for Andy Weir's specific style of science fiction than Lord and
Hmm.
Miller. And
Yeah.
throwing Drew Goddard into the mix, into the mix, it's like this is such a lightning in a bottle just team up of collaborative people for this movie, and it's a
Yeah.
joy. It's a joy.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. And
Mm,
that's just really the best word for it is
mm,
it is just a like a good movie, and I mean good in terms of, its heart.
mhm.
This movie's all heart.
Yeah.
And the science, like I said, the science would be easy to bog down,
Mhm.
but and it would be easy to just turn it into like, oh, I just want to get to this, to the space stuff again. And that, but in the as I was going through the book, that's what got me was it would cut at these really opportune moments, these almost like little mini cliffhangers within the book,
Mhm.
where something, some piece of information is dropped, and then boom, we're back in space, and then some key piece of information drops, and boom, we're back on Earth. So we haven't talked about that background either, where
Mhm.
so the narrative shifts from Ryland Grace, played by Ryan Gosling, in the spaceship. He's in space in a different galaxy, different part of the galaxy,
Mhm.
and he's in a different part of the galaxy in the same galaxy. Sorry, and so we in he wakes up out of a coma, out of a purposely induced coma, and doesn't know who he is, and he's slowly gaining information back. Like information is coming back to him as he is in this spaceship trying to figure out what it is he's there to do. And he very quickly remembers the information about the Earth. The Earth is
Mhm.
on a course of dying in several years, because the substance is blocking the sun rays from reaching the Earth, and so the Earth is cooling, going to die. Going to be chaos, mass murders, wars, and all that stuff, fighting over
Mhm.
crops because they're going to all be gone. Um, so so Earth scientists are trying to put together this task force to send the ship out to go to the one star in the area that does not seem to have been affected by this phenomenon. And they are going to send a ship there to find out why. And so obviously that ship is the one that Ryan Gosling's character is on. And so we are then left to kind of put all these pieces together. We're putting this puzzle together kind of as we're going along. It's like we don't know what the picture is, but you're
Yeah.
slowly being shown the whole picture as the film progresses,
Yeah.
and just and with a little bit of like, this piece goes right here. You know,
Mhm.
there's a lot of that as you go along, so that you can so that you're picking things up. So and then like we said, along the way there's a big twist, and
Mhm.
and then there's a lot of information, coming along as to how this whole puzzle is gonna be solved. I'm gonna go
Mhm.
back to that puzzle analogies, um,
Sure.
but yeah, it's engaging, it's
Mhm.
accessible, it basically has everything that you could want. It reminds me of a Steven Spielberg movie in a lot of ways.
Yes.
I don't wanna say which one yet because,
Mhm.
that would probably give things away that I don't wanna give
Yeah.
away.
We can go ahead and say it. It turns out that Ryan Gosling
Uh-huh.
is actually stuck in a terminal, uh,
Yeah, he's stuck in an
for
airport, that's
yeah.
the reality is, and yeah.
Yeah. But no, yeah, and I feel like the obvious like it is impossible to talk about this movie without comparing it to The Martian, and
Mhm.
like not only because of it being just Andy Weir, being based on his books, but also, I mean, the plot invites it and the
Yeah,
movie invites it too, because up until that like twist, that twist or the turn in the plot, I mean, this is structurally very similar to The Martian. A
yeah,
lone person in space,
mhm,
kind of divergent narratives. One like Earthbound,
yeah,
one spacebound. But
mhm,
what I really appreciate about it is that even with those comparisons, those like that obvious comparison, right off the bat, you know that this is a different type of movie, because The Martian which I love. I adore The
Yeah,
Martian, both the movie and
same,
the
same.
book. Yeah,
Mhm,
but that movie is all about just like this. I kind of liken it to The West Wing. It's like this
mhm.
idealized version of government uh
Yeah.
government systems. So like
Uh-huh.
NASA and just space travel. It's this idealized version of it. Everyone's working
Yeah.
together, all of that. Um which works like gangbusters. But here, this is like it's immediately we're immediately brought into Ryan Gosling to Ryland Grace
Mhm,
to the mystery element of it. And it's like a few minutes, a few scenes before we like get really our bearings on what like why like not even why he's out there, but just what
mhm.
the circumstances are. And
Yeah.
I really liked that. I really liked just learning as it went on. And there are a lot of different there's a lot of different things that this movie reminded me of. And I found it
Mhm,
interesting because it does feel like a little bit like an amalgam of several different pieces of science fiction that I know of and love and adore, but I never felt like this was derivative. I never felt like this was
right.
taking on anything.
Mhm,
I never felt like this was borrowing tropes or borrowing plot devices. Like, um, one of my favorite, not only favorite science fiction movies, but one of my favorite movies of all time, which is in itself also is actually pretty derivative and dependent on that. But it's Danny Boyle's Sunshine.
yeah.
Um, this movie, this plot is very reminiscent to an extent of Sunshine because in Sunshine, it's astronauts flying to the sun to blow it up to create a new star to save Earth because the sun is
Mhm.
dying. In this, it's different, but it's kind of a similar sort of thing with like, oh,
Yeah.
the sun's in peril, Earth's in peril, let's go somewhere and fix it. Um, but yeah, so I just appreciate how this movie really builds off of already not established science fiction, but like science, like it's forging new ground in a genre while also paying homage to other several different types of science fiction with that while still feeling fresh. And I think that that's really due to Lord and Miller as well. So yeah,
Yes, yes. Let's what do you think talk about, some of the actors? It is
yes,
not quite a one-man show,
right,
although, it is very Gosling heavy.
hmm
Um, we do get, the fantastic, Sandra Hüller, who
hmm
is, Hüller,
Hewler,
if we wanna be super German about it. I took German in
sure.
high school and college.
Oh,
I
nice.
know the umlaut a little bit.
Hmm.
Um so, yeah, so you would know her from Anatomy of a Fall from
Yes.
2023. And, so here she is in a, full-on, big-time, full-scale
hmm
American blockbuster type film,
Which
and
I
she
didn't
play
know that she was in this. I didn't know
Yeah,
she was
yeah,
in it, and I was so pleased because I loved her in Anatomy of a Fall.
she was
Yeah.
fantastic, yeah, and
hmm
and she's a lot of fun in this movie too. She is, um so she plays, Eva Stratt, who is a government agent of some sort that we don't really know the full breadth of her influence, other than
hmm
it seems pretty limitless, what she can do, what she's
Yeah.
able to do, and, it's basically her job to fix this problem, and so she has the world's resources to do it, and so she, basically gathers as many scientists as she can, and of course, Ryland Grace is one of them, which we should mention. Ryland Grace has, I believe she said he had the PhD in molecular biology or something,
Yeah, something like
and
that.
but he's teaching middle school, science because
hmm
he wrote a paper about, what was it? That
Oh yeah.
not water was not necessary for life,
Yes.
and on a galactic scale, and he was kind of discredited and laughed out of the
Mm.
building, and so he's retreated into, the middle school teaching world, and is, while he seems content and he loves the job that he's doing, there is that longing to, do the important work that he had been doing before. So so she is kind of his counterpart and plays a pivotal role
Hmm.
in everything else, especially as the film progresses.
To an
You
extent, like that. Sorry, that like
yeah,
backstory stuff. It's almost like a two-hander with the two of
yeah,
them. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and it is fantastic, and, in the book, I'll just say this book is or this film is as faithful to the book, I think, as, a film could be.
Nice.
It is pretty much beat for beat. Obviously, they've had to take some things out here and there, but the what the movie I saw in my head, is pretty much what was on film here.
Nice.
So, it does a great job of that. So yeah, and you mentioned Ken Leung, and then there's,
Hmm.
Milana Vaintrub, who we know
Hmm.
from the AT&T commercials,
Hmm.
and
And
she
Werewolves Within. Yeah.
and Werewolves Within, and
Hmm.
I think a couple of other things. I think she's been in a few things,
Yeah.
outside of that commercial that she's very well known for.
Hmm.
Um, but, they have smaller roles. They are, um it's not any kind of spoiler, I think, to say they were both astronauts and,
Hmm.
play a key role in the film's events unfolding.
Yeah.
But also they don't have as much screen time as it's basically Gosling and Hüller for being the leads of the film, so to speak,
Yeah.
uh, in terms of this part of the narrative. So,
Hmm.
um, I've gone on and on now.
Yeah, no, you're fine. And that's one thing that if I were to levy a criticism against this movie,
Mhm.
um, shocker, I can't believe I'm doing it, but it does feel like those two characters, Ken Leung and Milena
Mhm.
Vaintrub, they're underutilized.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because this is a 2.5 hour movie. Like,
Yeah.
I it would be hard to utilize them better, but it almost feels like that's maybe at this point it's the second example of an Andy Weir plot that kind of just underserves some supporting characters
Yeah.
in the film adaptation. So I don't know
Yeah.
how in depth they are in the book, but like in The
Yeah.
Martian, the crew, Mark Watney's crewmates, in the book, they're pretty well well drawn, and there's some good
Uh,
context and backstory and everything.
yeah.
But in the movie, like that is also like a 2.5 hour movie, and like I felt like
Yeah.
those characters were underserved. So I don't know if that's just something with just the way that Andy Weir plots out his books, that since these two books are relatively similar in structure and
Mhm.
overall design, maybe that's just the cost of adapting it, is that those specific types of characters get the
Mhm.
short shrift. But I definitely felt like both of those characters, I feel like I would have liked to have seen them have more screen time in the movie.
Yeah, yeah, and, yeah, me too, I think the reality of it is, given the way that so they do have larger roles in the book, but
Okay.
it's a lot of relationship stuff with
Mhm.
Ryland Grace. He's it's basically his job to coach them through they're
Mhm.
the 2 leads going up into the ship, into the Hail Mary, and he's there because he has all of this knowledge about astrophage. He was an early scientist who, was studying it, and so he's coaching them, and they kind of develop a friendship,
Okay.
and they act and well, I don't wanna say too much because that'll give that away,
Sure.
but, they develop a friendship, yeah, but they lose a lot of it,
Mm.
in the film, but it's kinda to me, it's like it's an acceptable loss,
Yeah.
and um, there are a couple of little nods to some of their character arcs,
Okay.
it and Ryland, early in the film, discovers a stash of vodka,
Mm.
and what that vodka was for is kind of a fun, well, as fun as it could be.
Sure.
It's sort of morose, to be honest, but
Mm.
it's a fun nod to the presence of vodka in on the ship and why it's there. It's
Okay.
not they don't really address it. It's just like, "Oh, look, vodka," and he gets
Mm.
drunk, but, in the book, there's a purpose for it being there.
Okay.
Um, but that's as much as I'll say in a non-spoiler way. Um but yeah, so there are those characters. There are obviously some other characters that had a larger role in the book that are really not in the film at all,
Mm.
or very little anyway. A couple of characters. Um, that we can talk about later.
Yeah, sure.
But yeah. But for the principles of the film are all there
Mm,
in place. They're, like I said, pretty much the way I envisioned them, and
nice.
they more or less all behave the way that they did in the book. So it's like
Nice.
it all is pretty fun.
Um, the visual effects and the kind of production design of this movie were just jaw-dropping.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, really, I was just really taken with it.
Mhm,
Especially with the movie just presents uh, space, and it's I was reading like a Reddit thread recently that was like something to the effect of like, what's something that is completely misconstrued because of the way it's depicted in movies or whatever.
mhm.
And one of the things was like, oh, space and how there's no sound in space or anything. And I feel like that's kind of like this byproduct of like a bygone era, because like in the
Yeah,
last like 20 years or maybe even 30 years, I feel like that's been corrected in space movies.
yeah,
um which is a little bit of a tangent, but basically I feel like the science, as far as I understand it,
uh-huh,
is depicted in a very clear and
mhm,
beautiful way. And there's one moment, I won't give it away, but there's a moment where basically Ryan Gosling he says the line, "I'm having a moment," and like the
yeah,
visuals of that moment were just
yeah. It was,
amazing. Like,
yeah,
yeah,
just a
like that
gorgeous
alone.
shot. Yeah,
Yeah, like that alone.
mhm.
Go see it in theaters because it's
Yeah, yeah.
just beautiful.
Yeah, if you have an IMAX within reach, go see
Hmm.
that, and, we watched it on a LIMAX screen,
Hmm.
kind of close in a theater close to my house, but,
Hmm.
I do, and we'll probably go back there to watch it again, to be honest,
Nice.
but, I would love to go to our real IMAX here in
Me
Indianapolis
too.
and
Oh
really
yeah.
watch that. That would be such a spectacular, that one shot, it'd be worth whatever I'm paying for that one shot because
Oh,
it is
absolutely
spectacular.
agree on that screen.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Mhm.
God, I wonder
Yeah.
if they're showing it. I feel like they probably would.
Oh,
The
they
State
have to
Museum
be.
IMAX. Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah, they
Interesting.
have to be.
Yeah. So, trying to think of other non-spoiler stuff we can talk about really, but um kind of overall thoughts, and then we can actually go into spoilers.
Yeah.
How do you rank this against, or how do you rate this against The Martian? Since we're kind of bringing that back and forth.
Yeah, I liked it much better than The Martian. I liked The Martian quite
Oh,
a bit.
interesting.
I thought it was a very fun movie, but I think this
Mhm.
is, to me, this is like head and shoulders a superior movie for me.
Mhm.
But you're spot on that they do have similar structures, and they, obviously the material, the basic narrative of it is pretty similar.
Mhm.
Maybe he'll have like a Lone Man in Space trilogy,
Yeah.
just find what's next, it's like
Oh, yeah.
we had on Mars, we have in
Mhm.
a spaceship, it's like, I don't know what's next. Do we go, like, to the moon or something? It's like, I
Here's
don't
the
know.
thing, and I'm just gonna throw, if Andy Weir's listening to it, an
Mhm.
airplane terminal. Um,
Uh-huh.
that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
can be where
there
it
you
is.
go. Yeah, just an immigrant who gets stuck, there's a coup in
Yeah.
his country,
Mhm.
and like, while he's on the airplane, he
Yeah.
lands, and now he can't go anywhere.
Throw in a
Uh,
Stanley Tucci, and baby, you got a Spielberg going.
if Stanley Tucci was in Project Hail Mary, I would go see it a 3rd time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's really fun. We Before we go into spoilers, let's talk about Ryan
Mhm.
Gosling as well,
Yeah.
because
Oh, yeah.
his
Yeah.
performance, like, it is such a perfect, just like meld of like Andy Weir and
Yeah,
Lord and
Matt
Miller,
Damon.
their style.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Um, he is this kind of like signature protagonist from like he's similar in some respects to Mark Watney, just kind of like a
Mhm,
normal guy with very with some very fun sense of humor, but also
mhm.
uh, highly above average intelligence and everything, but
Mhm.
the way that Gosling plays this role, it really feels like, and I've got to presume that it's very true to the book, so I can't really give
Yeah.
them all this credit, but like it feels like it is just such a good, strong, like Lord and Miller
Mhm.
performance.
Yeah.
Um, because they like their movies tend to always really play into that kind of comedy, almost self-referential comedy or
Mhm.
self-satirical comedy, but not with the self-awareness baked in, but still done fresh. And
Yeah.
like here, you've got Ryan Gosling playing this role as someone who we're endeared to him because he has like he's in this constant state of frantic social awkwardness, but
Mhm.
also he's like the smartest person in the room, but the least confident person in the room. But it's
Yeah.
not because he's uncomfortable around people. It's just that he's constantly like having all of these thoughts about what's going on.
Yes.
So yeah, he's like, there's just layers to that performance that I
Mhm.
adored so much.
Yeah, you said, you were talking about when you were what you were talking about, I jumped in with, like, Matt Damon because he
Mm,
was very much like Mark Watney in The Martian, that they're very
mhm,
similar characters. In the book, they play up um, his kind of aw shucks kind of persona
mm,
where he is by himself and, speaking and thinking. So, you're in the book, you're inside his head and, he speaks, but you're also in his head. And he very self-consciously does not swear. And,
mm.
he's a very golly gee kind of, character in the book. And
Okay.
they play that down a little bit, but
Mm,
just a little because he still is just a sincere, like a real nice person. And he's got that wonder of the world.
mm.
And as a scientist he's got that, there's a lot of that like nerdy excitement that
Yes.
only a nerd could get about the thing they love the most. And he is just a science nerd, and
Mm,
he gets really excited about these just these little breakthroughs that he makes.
mm.
And that's really endearing, and it really helps kind of drive the action along and keeps it from being like, "Oh, here he is looking in a damn microscope again." It's
Right.
like which is a big part of the book, and it's like that, it could be a whole thing. It's like, "Oh, wow, here's 2.5 hours of Ryan Gosling peering into a microscope."
Mhm.
But it's not, and, they obviously sneak in quite a bit of interesting and fun action with stakes and, pretty hard hitting drama, kind of stuff. And it's just the sincerity of it, and it just goes full on for this being sincere. And it's like, to hell with the consequences of, oh,
Yeah.
it's not quite snarky enough, or it's not whatever. There's a little bit of
Right.
snark, I guess, here and
Oh,
there, but
yeah.
yeah,
But it's
but it is very sincere. Yeah.
yeah, but it's never like the snark isn't necessarily like any expense or anything. It's still
Yeah.
true to the character, and it's one of the things that I really appreciate about Andy Weir's approach to science fiction
Yeah.
is that it is clearly from a basis of a love of science and a love of just the work of it all. Like in The Martian, like there's like at the end of the movie where Mark Watney's talking and he's just like like he's giving that kind of very inspiring speech and he's just like that. So like when you find yourself in like this horrible situation, just do the work. Just do the work and
Yep.
figure it out.
Mhm.
And it's so beautiful to see science fiction in a way that is true as trues can be to real science, like the hard science of it all, but
Mhm.
also being just this fun, entertaining, uh, while also high stakes but high energy,
Mhm.
entertainment vehicle.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Alright.
Yeah. And just really quick about Brian Gosling, and
Yeah,
then we
yeah.
can go into spoilers.
Yeah.
Um, this is a tangent, but I saw a clip, like the promo clip for him hosting Saturday Night Live.
Mhm.
It's just him wandering around the studio, acting like a big like a big shot because he's joining the five timer club.
Yes.
And
One of
then
my favorite SNL more recent developments is the
oh
Five
yeah,
Timers Club, and yeah, I
yes.
love that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And then in the clip he gets corrected and is like, actually this is your fourth time, and then he's just like, oh really, like whatever. But like the fun, like self-conscious aspect of it and poking fun at himself kind of way. I
Mhm.
saw a comment on that video that's and I haven't been able to get it out of my mind because it's so spot on, but it just said Ryan Gosling is the person that Ryan Reynolds thinks he is. Um and I was like, fuck, that is spot on.
That's so good, yeah.
Yeah, and like I keep thinking about that, and like this is such an obvious or easy thing to make, but like my extrapolation of that is that and this is probably like stereotypical, but I just imagine like Ryan Gosling is the guy that you're surprised like goes out for like the school play and like kills it
Mhm.
and gets into like theater in school. And
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is the guy who yeah, like Ryan Gosling is fun in that way that he's fun as he's able to go into like theater programs and stuff. And then
Yeah.
Ryan Reynolds is the guy that thinks he's fun because he's calling you a slur and making fun of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, just something about their two personalities that
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
it is such a strange, like,
Mhm.
uh, dichotomy between the 2 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's very spot on. That is a very
Mhm.
great description, yeah.
Yeah. So, so you rated Project Hail Mary 5 stars.
Yeah.
I rated it 4.5.
Mhm.
Loved it. Loved it,
Yeah,
loved it, loved it.
yeah.
2026 is starting off strong. We're in March, and
Mhm.
already, like, I've got two movies that
Mhm.
are likely going to be in my top 10, both in
Yeah.
Project Hail Mary and
Mhm.
28 Years Later, The Bone Temple. So,
Yeah, yeah.
starting out really strong. But Joe, what do you say we go into spoilers for Project Hail Mary?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and go into spoilers. If you're skipping around, make sure to follow Joe on Letterboxd at Joe R. Shearer,
Mhm.
and check out his writing at MidwestFilmJournal.com. So having said that, I'm going to play a clip from the trailer. When we come back, we're going to be spoiling Project Hail Mary.
Is dying. You are the only scientist who might know what this says.
I'm just a teacher at Grover Cleveland Middle.
You have a doctorate in molecular biology. I need you to come with us. This is Project Hail Mary. The sun is not the only star dying. Every star was infected by its neighbor, except one.
Why?
Which is why we built a ship to go there and find out.
It's 11.9 light years away. The astronauts die in space.
It's what you Americans would call a long shot.
Hail Mary. I get it. Who on earth is going to sign up for this?
All right, so spoilers on for Project Hail Mary, and
Mhm.
Joe, let's talk about Rocky.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah, I honestly that is one of those like just such a fun like gobsmack of a moment for me in the theater. Like
Mhm.
when he sees the ship, I just like I hadn't in the back of my mind, I kept thinking like, "Oh yeah, I remember that Joe said that there was some twist. Like, what's the deal? Like, what's going to happen?" And then when he sees it, I'm like,
Uh,
"Oh shit!" Because I was like thinking like, "Oh, it's going to turn out that he's actually in like the solar system, or he's actually like
right.
somewhere else, or whatever."
Uh,
But when that was introduced, I was like, "Okay, this is like a first contact story. This is
yeah.
he's gonna be like I was so enthralled by that because I had no idea it was gonna turn into like a buddy comedy thing. So
Mhm.
I was right there with him. I was like, okay, how is he gonna communicate with
Yeah.
this other alien race? What is
Mhm.
like I was nervous for him because I was thinking like, oh shit, they're gonna think he's like invading there were so many possibilities, and that just really
Yeah.
got me on the edge of my seat. I loved it. So let's talk Rocky.
Yeah. So, again, he is pretty close to what is described in the book. Um, Ryland Grace refers to him as basically a giant spider, and that's but in that kind of describes his appearance. He's very strange. He doesn't have a face, or a real mouth. He has sort of a mouth that you see at one point, but and which they also kind of toned down in the film, that his atmosphere contains ammonia. And I don't want to say they tone it down. They just don't go into great explanation of it. And I don't even know that they call it ammonia, but in the book they say, their atmosphere is made of ammonia, so they cannot directly interact with each other. They can't just occupy the same space. They have to have barriers between them. And it's just for, to just all the little rules they have, the little differences they have between them. They, he Rocky seems like almost an animal at first, because he doesn't look like a human being. And they play on that a little bit to, he's, it's scary. It's, obviously the first contact is appropriately terrifying, because what would any of us do if we are, making first contact with someone from another race, an alien race that's not of the earth? And he is appropriately terrified. But then, like you said, they form this relationship. It's basically, I'm going to go back to Star Trek. It's basically, if you've ever seen the episode Darmok, there's a section of the film like that, where in that, the Captain Picard is kidnapped and placed on a planet with the captain of another ship who does not speak English, and the universal translator can't translate what they're saying. And he has to learn to communicate with him. In the meantime, there's this monster coming at them that wants to kill them both. And so they have to learn how to work together without speaking the same language. And that's basically like the middle section of this film, where, there are two people essentially stranded on their own ships. They can interact with each other, but they can't just simply go on to the other ship. Like I said, there has to be that barrier, so that they can survive. And they don't speak a language. Rocky speaks in a language that's comprised mostly of like beeps and bloops and things like that. Or musical notes, kind of harmonic kind of language. And so they have a pretty ingenious way of getting them to communicate with each other.
Yes.
Yeah, through a computer. And so it's a lot of fun. That's its own little journey, is them learning to talk, to communicate with each other. And over time they do, of course, and then they are able to start sharing information with each other. And so it turns into this just lovely collaboration between the two of them. And they, where they both have their own strengths. And Rocky, as it turns out, is an engineer and can build things. He's not a scientist. And in fact, his people are not as advanced as humans are when it comes to science. And so Ryland has to provide the science, but he's also not as good of an engineer. And so Rocky is able to build machines and build, these kind of, creative kind of barriers and creative little tools that they can use as they go along the way. But yeah, just a wonderful little friendship between the two of them.
Yes. It's so freaking beautiful, man.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And like that bond, as it progresses throughout the movie, like one of the things that I was really taken with, and this is maybe going to be jumping around a little bit, but
sure, yeah,
was, like you said, it is introduced kind of like I had thoughts when Rocky was able to get onto the ship and everything. I was like, oh, it's like he has a cat. It's like a pet cat.
Yeah.
It's like that. But then, like, as that friendship progresses and their bond grows, it's like it is so authentically human, like that friendship between them.
Yeah.
That like when the movie gets into more perilous situations, like namely the moment where Rocky sort of sacrifices himself to an extent to save Grace.
Yeah.
That was so beautiful and heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And then the whole like returning the favor at the end, just like, God, it was so great.
Yeah.
And what I think is brilliant about the way that they approached that bond was in the way that on the Earth side of the narrative, they kind of misdirect us a little bit, because it makes it seem like Ryan Gosling's character has like a thing going with Sandra Hüller,
Yeah.
and it kind of seems like, oh, they're like, I was afraid throughout the movie, like, are they trying to do like a romantic subplot there? Because
Yeah.
it's like they're setting it up to where it's like, well, he needs to get back to her or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we get the other really big twist in the movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
that's not the case, but
Right. Yeah.
it's just
they're sort of these parallel mirror image relationships, right? Where
Mhm.
they, you know, Strat is such just an icy kind of character,
Mhm.
but there's sort of that, there's kind of a softness underneath. There
Mhm.
you see the little softness underneath, but hard exterior, with something underneath. And Rocky is that way also.
Mhm.
He's literally called Rocky because he looks like a spider made out of rocks, in
Yeah.
a way. And he has a hard outer shell and a softness inside, the kind of the same way. And the relationships are parallel too. Yeah. And that was the one thing that terrified me, about kind of a third of the way through the movie or so, maybe, well, more toward the
Mhm.
halfway point. And there's a segment where they're singing karaoke. It's all of
Mhm.
these people who were trying to save the world, and they're taking a break and having a night out, and she is like, nope, I'm working. But then she goes in and sings karaoke. She sings uh Sign of the Times by Harry Styles, which is
Mhm.
very surprising choice. And but I think one that was very good. It was like
Mhm.
it worked. It was perfect, as it turns out.
Oh yeah.
And and at that moment I was like, oh my God, they're gonna make them a couple, because obviously I knew it was coming. So
Yeah.
um yeah, so it was but they didn't. They held off, and
Mhm.
it was just a friendship, and it was,
Yeah.
as it turns out, just a signifier of him
Mhm.
seeing this other layer of her, because she is so, um you almost feel like she's on the spectrum,
Yeah.
where she's just very straight-laced and very
Yeah.
dry
And it's
and
hard to get a
very
read on
on
her.
task. Yeah,
Yeah.
and you can't solve her, because
Mhm.
she is just, I will get what I want no matter what, and I will
Mhm.
just, and it's like, it's not even gonna be a thing. Like, there's not even a world where I don't get what I want.
Mhm.
And so that, she plays that perfectly. And yeah, that they held off is to their credit, because it would be a very Hollywood thing to be like, well, yeah, but why can't he have a girlfriend?
Totally.
What about
Oh
the Strat
yeah.
girl? But it's like, boy, that would have ruined that
Yeah.
second twist at the end.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And I love that it is presented somewhat like a misdirect. Like it seems
Mhm.
intentional that they were
Yeah.
trying to do that, because
Mhm.
it ups the shock of that twist, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But um even more more directly with that whole plot element is that the movie definitely sets it up, like it doubles down on the fact that Ryland has no one. Like, he has no
Right.
connections or
Yeah.
anything. And you the way that it's kind of just presented when the ship blows up and everything, and
Uh-huh.
they're figuring out like what their contingency plan is,
Uh-huh.
um and when they're selling him on it, like, hey, you know everything, like,
Mhm.
why not just go? And it's like, well, because it's a suicide mission, like,
Right.
but it's just like that coldness that you mentioned is there, where it's like, well, you don't have anyone, like, you have no connections, there's nothing here.
Yeah.
You're like, this is a sacrifice that anyone would be privileged to do.
Yeah, yeah. Should
And
we
like,
back up a little bit on that and
yeah.
give the
Oh yeah.
because we haven't even really explained what astrophage is, honestly.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So astrophage is a living organism that absorbs heat, that absorbs a great deal of heat.
Mm.
Sorry, we'll not get too much into the science of it, but
Yeah.
essentially it travels to stars and gets in front of stars and absorbs the heat from those suns, from the stars. Of course,
They're like
the effect.
the
Yeah. Go ahead.
they're like the organism, like space organism version of the asshole that stands up and like stands in front of you at a concert
Yeah.
that's way too tall. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good. Yeah. Except you can't stuff him into a spaceship and power your ship.
Sure.
Yeah, so
Well, you don't
what
know
they
that for sure, actually.
actually I don't. We should try that sometime. But yeah, so but the gist of it is that it's very volatile. It generates a unbelievable amount of heat. But humanity ends up harnessing the astrophage into fuel for spaceships that allows them to then travel very close to light speed, so that they can travel in an interstellar sort of way. And so they start making plans to send this ship to the one star, as I mentioned, the one star in the vicinity that is not affected by this phenomenon. And they're like, well, why is it not there? It's everywhere else. So they're going to send a ship there to investigate. They get the crew together, and this is kind of a years long process where they're getting a crew together, they're training them, they're showing them exactly what they're going to be doing, what they're looking for. And then on the eve of the launch, a couple of days before the launch, there's an accident at the facility that blows up the building and kills both the science officer and the backup science officer. So they have a crew of 2 now without a science officer, obviously the key role.
Right.
And so then they sort of draft Ryan Gosling into that. The twist of it is that he refuses, he declines, and they say, yeah, can't do that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you're going, buddy. And so they force him on, and it is a traumatic sort of moment. It feels like a violation against him.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, because he is literally forced. And she tells him, she's like, I'll give you a couple hours to think about it. And he comes back and it's like, I can't do it. And he admits he's afraid. He doesn't want to go and he doesn't want to die. And he's like, I'll stay here and risk the Walking Dead apocalypse kind of thing.
Yeah.
Basically, every person for themselves, murder your neighbor for a hamburger sort of environment over going into space.
Right. And the planet has about 30 years. Like the time frame they give is like, we've got like 30 years before everything's gone and everyone's gone and everything's done.
And all the crops die, and we're and it's global Armageddon basically. So so she, Strat, who, like we said, has been his friend now for years, is like, they're very close friends. She's like, you have to go, I have to make you go. And so she drugs him. They induce the coma to allow them to travel. And so she's like, I'll just do it a day early, and then I'll tell him that you said to put him on that way. Because as the film goes along, the issue comes up in a conversation between him and the other 2 astronauts, and the captain of the captain of the mission says, I don't want you to, which I don't even know if he says it in the movie. You can remind me. He says, I don't want anybody here who doesn't want to be here. So he's like, I wouldn't make you do it.
Oh, I don't think it was in the movie.
Yeah. In the book, there's a scene where that happens, and then in this scene where she reveals this to him, he brings that up, and she's like, no, I'll just drug you early. I'll tell him that that's what you wanted to do, and there we go. And then by the time anybody knows anything different, you'll be out in space and it won't matter anyway.
Yeah. And that is something I really love the dimension that's given to Ryland as a character,
Yeah.
because like that
Yeah.
is such the movie is going out of its way, the story is going out of its way to not paint him as just like this heroic figure, but also
Mhm.
not painting him as this reluctant hero. So like
Yeah.
when we get that moment where he's like, no, I can't do it, it's not really presented as like, oh, the hero's struggle that he has to overcome his fears or anything. It's like
Yeah.
it's more just like, this is just a genuine human reaction. Like
Yeah.
I understand the stakes, but like it feels like he's saying like, I understand the stakes, but this isn't a movie. I'm not
Right.
gonna like
Yeah.
do that. Like find someone
Mhm.
else. Like what are you
Yeah.
talking
Yeah.
about?
Yeah.
And I just really, I really like that because even at the end of the movie, I never felt like this was this redemptive story for him. It was never this
No. Yeah.
big like, oh, I'm finally going to be the person who saves humanity or whatever. It's very much like that kind of Martian-esque Andy Weir style where it's just like, no, I'm just going to do the job that I'm here to do and figure it out. And I will walk that back a little bit, but because he does have that kind of heroic moment where he decides that he is going to sacrifice himself to save Rocky, to go back because he
Yeah.
he knows that he doesn't want his friend to die alone. He doesn't want his friend to like he wants his friend to see Adrian again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which that was just so when he names the planet Adrian and names like
Yeah.
her Adrian, I'm just like that is just oh god. I'm gonna do that meme. Like I did the Wakanda pose and said like that's the kind of pop culture crossover that I can get behind.
Yeah.
Um but
Uh-huh.
but yeah, but it's just it makes it more of a human thing, a more of an emotional response rather than this big like blockbuster kind of not action hero, but big like set piece thing. It's more this emotional
Mhm.
connection, and that's what makes this movie just sing so well for me.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, that just those little pop culture nuggets that are
Mm,
there, and they're not they're not self-conscious, like
yeah.
a lot of things like that. It's like, oh, look at me, I know this reference, it's like
Mm,
he calls him Rocky, and it's like, well, he could call him Rocky for, a couple of reasons, because,
mm,
but then at one point you very briefly see them watching Rocky. So he is
yeah.
like, these are years long relationships that are forming, and you see them watching Rocky at one point, and then later on when they have to name something else, he names this planet Adrian
Mm,
after, because he's like, oh, it's an Earth custom that the first person to discover something gets to name it.
mm,
And what's your mate's name, because they have this rudimentary language,
yeah.
where they're able to understand each other. And he's like, "Oh, well, in my language, it's this." And he says that, he makes the lyrical, the
Yeah.
noise that he would make that would signify his mate's name. And he's like, what's the human name word for that?" And he's like, "I'm gonna call it Adrian." And it's like, yes.
Yeah.
It's like, yes, how perfect is that?
So good.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and this is just pointing out like another just heart pull at the heartstrings thing, but like
Mhm.
when he gives Rocky the hacky sack, and says like,
Yes.
this is their like, god damn it,
Yeah.
that got me. That and
Yeah.
the fact that like the last scene of the movie is him on Rocky's planet, and like he's in the biosphere thing, and
Mhm.
he's teaching the kids, and it's just
Yeah.
like that's the kind like I love that about what I've seen of Andy Weir's storytelling between
Yeah.
this and The Martian. Just like
Mhm.
that, just not life affirming exactly, but like
Mhm.
that, just like zest for life that these characters have. Like Mark Watney's in an impossible situation that he could not possibly overcome and everything, but no, he's going to do the work and everything and actually survive this situation.
Yeah.
Ryland Grace is in an impossible situation with the fate of humanity at stake and everything. And like, again, it's not a big heroic movie in terms of like movie moment for him. At any point, it's not this big redemptive thing. It's just like he starts the movie teaching kids and he ends the movie teaching kids. And that's
Yeah.
just, I will take that kind of just character beats over like the big, like archetypical redemptive arc or what have you that's often kind of trite or just lives in tropes of the genre. I will take that type of thing that Andy Weir has been doing between two stories that I've experienced of his over that any day.
Yeah. And it was just so great, just so great. Um if if we want to like get into nitpicking, little differences,
Sure.
there, there's a couple of moments that that are slightly different from the book that I thought were kind of notable. There's that you mentioned that scene where where Rocky sacrifices himself.
Mhm.
In the film, it's sort of it's portrayed as sort of an extended sequence where he's not sure if Rocky is alive or not.
Mhm.
And as he's walking around the ship, Rocky, if they find a way, Rocky, as being an engineer, finds a way to get onto the ship, but he's basically lives in sort of a bubble.
Yeah.
And they have this material that he calls xenonite. It's made out of xenon, which on Earth is an inert gas. And so he's like, but it's this like harder than metal kind of thing, kind of material, and is also transparent when it needs to be. And it's so it is like a magical material essentially. And uh so Rocky walks around in this bubble, and then of course at one point Grace's life is in peril, and Rocky has to like break out of this thing to save him, and he does, and kind of to his own detriment, and basically he spends some time, it's like he's maybe dead, maybe he's in a coma, maybe he's just asleep. In the book, there's a sequence where um there's a soot-like material that is in the holes where Rocky usually breathes from, and Grace um goes to great pains to clean this out, to clean that stuff out. He's like, "Oh, I bet he's choking on that." And he cleans them out, and basically like blows all of the soot out of his body. And then the film continues, or the book continues along. Eventually, of course, Rocky wakes up and he's like, "Oh yeah, I thought you were dead. You had this stuff. I think I saved your life." And he's like, "No, that actually was essentially like like a scab over my wounds, and you almost killed me." He's like, "I actually almost died, and but yeah, it's all okay, so don't worry about it." So that was the one thing that I kind of wish was in the movie, but
Sure.
it's also just kind of a throwaway joke in the end.
Yeah.
But also underscores that misunderstanding between cultures and races, and in this case
Yeah. Oh
biology.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
well, I was gonna say the other one is,
Oh yeah.
which I loved the way it was realized in the book, where so Grace, at the end, he finds out that Earth did solve the problem. So essentially he like sends these little probes out back to Earth because he has so it's very convoluted. Essentially, he has to go save Rocky. Let's just say it like that.
Yeah.
They split off. They're going back home to their respective planets, and Grace learns something catastrophic is about to happen to Rocky's ship, so he races back to him. Um, to the Basically, he's dooming himself to never get home again because he initially thought that this was a suicide mission he was on. Rocky gave him more astrophage so that he's able to get back home, but he doesn't have enough food to survive in space for an extended amount of time. So he has to make this choice of, do I just go home and doom Rocky to death, or do I go save him and doom myself to death? As you referenced, he chose to save his friend, goes back, and sends the information back to Earth through these little probes. And in the book, the two of them end up just like looking at Earth and seeing that and now I can't remember what the band is called. The
Oh
like there's
yeah.
yeah. I just
I
can't
can't
remember
remember either.
the
The
name for
something
it.
line. Yeah.
Yeah, it's basically like a red line across
Hmm.
the sun is how it's visualized. And they see that that's gone, and so they're like, "Yeah, Earth, Earth figured it out."
Hmm.
But in the movie, we actually see a scene where Strat receives the information from Grace, from space. They retrieve these probes, and so they're like, "Now we're gonna get to work," so it's like humanity figured it out. But then meanwhile, final spoiler, the movie, Grace goes to live on the Xenonite. Is that what they're called? No,
Uh,
Xenonite is the
no.
material.
Yeah.
Iridian homeworld. Sorry, I'm
Yes.
getting my alien names mixed up. So he has to live in the bubble as opposed to Rocky now. But the people on Arid is what they called him, is what they
Hmm.
called it. They have constructed his own little, like, um I don't want to call it a holodeck to go back to Star Trek, but it's
Yeah.
it's sort of it's sort of his own
Like a
little private
biosphere.
biosphere environment, yeah,
Yeah.
where only he lives, but then he interacts with the Iridians. So,
Hmm.
very sweet, cute ending, like you said, where he's
Yes.
teaching, Iridian children, science. And
So great.
yeah, it's just so good, and it's corny in all the best ways.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, but
But
it's, yeah,
it's so sincere in its
yeah,
corniness.
yes,
Um yeah, I'm trying to find the name, like that word. I can't. It's the line thing, but
yeah,
I can't find it. But anyway, this movie, as we alluded to in non-spoilers, it does feel like a little bit of an amalgam of a couple of different science fiction things.
mhm,
Um, we referenced Spielberg, very much felt like that First Contact thing felt like Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
mhm,
Um, Even in the score, like the score of the movie felt like it took from like classical, like operatic sort of tones from like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then
mhm,
also delving into some interstellar style
yeah,
scoring, and also specifically in like the scenes that evoked Close Encounters of the Third Kind, it felt like Close Encounters of the Third Kind style of
yeah,
music.
yeah, yeah,
um but like despite that, and then even just the overall premise, like I said before, it reminded me of Sunshine. The
mhm,
whole astrophage thing reminded me a lot of the protomolecule stuff in the Expanse series.
mhm.
um which, by the way, if you haven't, have you read The Expanse or seen The Expanse
I
TV
have
show?
not. Yeah, no, I have not.
I My God, like I like totally recommend it.
Okay.
I've like plug for the Patreon. I've been reviewing the Expanse series in it's 9 books, plus a book of short stories. I am 5 books in, but I've been doing reviews over the last like couple of years. I've been doing reviews that are 6-part reviews of each book. So
Oh, wow.
I've yeah, so I've put it like there are days worth of audio of me talking about the work of James S. A. Corey. But anyway, that whole series, I'm not going to go into all the detail or whatever, is that
No.
there's a substance. There's a substance called the protomolecule that's an alien substance that causes some problems for humanity, essentially. And it just reminded me a lot. In this movie, it reminded me of the protomolecule in The Expanse. Um, yeah, and of course, The Martian as well. So
Mhm.
there are a lot of different like touches of science fiction parallels that I I never once felt like it was a cheap imitation. And I
Yeah,
think that that's a skill that is that is the embodiment of the collaborative efforts of Andy Weir, Drew Goddard, Lord and Miller, like them coming together to make this movie and not have it be redundant or have it be too evocative of like top tier science fiction.
yeah,
Is something that's just awe-inspiring for me.
Yeah, I agree with that, and yeah, it's just a wonderful movie experience.
Yep.
It's I haven't had an experience like that in the movie in a long time, and
Yeah.
yeah, just a
I,
lovely story and just a great time at the movies. Very
same.
memorable, and
Hmm.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
it is. I will honestly, I'll be surprised if there's another movie that ranks above this on my list at the end of the year.
Nice. And that is such a
Mhm.
good feeling to have in
Yeah.
March. That's so awesome. Like
Yeah.
that's why like I tend to say, and I said it last year, like when the IFJA awards were announced, just like I, there's no such thing as a bad movie year, like at all.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Yeah.
the movies are out there. It's just the fact that people need to find them.
Mhm.
Um, and to have this year start out so strong with this and 28 years later, The Bone Temple, which I love,
Mhm.
um, just really, really good. Bodes well for the rest of the year, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Any final thoughts on Project Hail Mary?
No, yeah, no, go see it, when it when it comes out.
Hmm.
We were very fortunate to see it as early as we did, and,
Yes.
I'm always grateful for that chance, so,
Me too.
yeah, go see this, do yourself a favor,
Hmm.
you will like it if you like anything that involves science fiction-y kind of elements,
Yeah.
even if you don't love it, it is so accessible. It
Yes.
is something
Oh
that,
yeah.
you all you gotta do is understand the gist of what they're doing, and you can just ignore most of the science otherwise.
Right.
It is very easy to understand for as complicated a topic as it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And this was a thought that I had with The Martian and now this, but like
Mhm.
this is a like take your kids to it. Like
Yeah, yeah.
this is the type of science fiction that
Mhm.
I would have loved to have been exposed to at an early age because this is the type of thing that like these are the types of stories that like kids could latch onto and like it could
Mhm.
really jumpstart like a good love of science fiction with
Mhm.
young audiences because it's so
Yeah,
accessible, but it's also not like it's accessible without being flung into like fantasy realm of
yeah.
like impossible science.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, it's a really great balancing
Mhm.
act for
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
those things.
and I think I mentioned earlier, I took my stepson to see it, and he
Mhm.
was absolutely over the moon about it. So,
Nice,
yeah,
nice.
he's 10, so it
Mhm.
is, yeah, it is very accessible to children,
Mhm.
um, and they'll obviously love it.
Oh
Rocky
yeah.
is very cute and is very
Mhm.
fun, and he's not cute in an obnoxious way, like,
Right.
this is not Lilo and Stitch, like,
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah.
like he feels like a real
Mhm.
being, and you have to I
Absolutely.
mean, he's not traditionally cute,
Mhm.
attractive in ways that, he's not fuzzy
Yeah.
and furry,
It
he's made out of
here's
rock.
exactly. He's not like Grogu. He's not Baby
Mhm.
Yoda. He's
Uh-huh.
not like a merchandisable
Mhm.
cute figure for the kids so that, like it's not like, the kids go to see Rocky and the adults go to see Ryan Gosling.
Mhm.
It's
Right.
just it's so far surpasses that type of just,
Mhm.
movie going
Yeah.
polls, I guess.
Yeah.
So yeah, so hopefully people go see it.
Yeah,
It opens in
absolutely. Yeah, please
theaters
do.
March 20th.
Mhm.
Yeah, any final thoughts or should we wrap up this review?
Yeah, let's wrap it up. Like we said, go see it. That's the point.
Yes. Oh yes, absolutely. So that is our review of Project Hail Mary. Let us know what you thought. And I will get into the secondary review here in a moment, but Joe's not going to be joining me for that. But thank you so much, Joe, for joining me for this episode of the podcast.
Thank
If you
you.
could tell
Mhm.
people where they can find you online and what you've
Yeah.
got coming up. This
Mhm.
will be going up probably closer to like probably the 19th.
Mhm.
So yeah, where can people find you and what
Yeah.
do they have to look out for?
Of course, there's Midwest Film Journal. I cannot emphasize enough how much I love writing for those guys. Um, and as far as what I have coming up next, I've got a review of Cobra Kai, the complete Cobra Kai series coming up. which is another franchise that I love.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe by the time this drops, that will have already been out. That's
Nice.
the only thing I have on the immediate horizon, but there are always things coming up and new
Oh yeah.
films to watch. So um, if you read all the stuff I've done, go on and check everybody else out because there's a lot of
Mhm.
talented writers there and
Yes.
doing a lot of good work. So
Mhm.
yeah, so go check that out. Catch me on Letterboxd, Joe R. Shearer, Shearer. Write that down because you'll not get it right afterwards.
Right. Nice. Well, thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure as it always is.
Tell me I view obsessively.